On August 3rd, 2013, this is social lesson number 11. Greenbridge friends, Michael here, Bridgehands, and welcome you to day 2, part 2, with more on declare play in a suit contract. Now, you recall in part 1, we took a look at some situations where we did not pull trump first, where we instead had delayed gratification, where we went ahead and did some of our business on the side suits, promoting a shorter side suit, but long enough before we went ahead and pulled trump. Typically, you recall that we pull trump first, then promote a side suit, do our finesses or whatever. But a fairly common scenario is when we need to rough and dummy, when dummy has a short suit. Recall one of those strategies, which was where we do roughs, and it's typically in the dummy, sometimes back and forth, as we'll discuss in a moment. And first off, when the dummy hits the table right after the opening lead is, we're in our major suit game. What do? Do we count winners or losers? Well, we can count both, but typically in a suit contract, we count our losers. In a no-trump contract, we count our winners. If we have 9 winners, we're in 3 no-trump contract. All quick tricks, fine. Life is good, unless we were looking for over tricks. In a suit contract, we're normally taking a look at the losers. So if we have 5 losers, we need 10 tricks. We're in a 4 heart or 4 spade game. Then we need to russage up and get another 2 tricks. And sometimes we can't pull trump first, as we're going to see more on today. Okay, well, first off, you'll recall which is where we do promoting on a suit in the dummy before we've pulled trump. Now, it's not going to be a 4-4 suit between us and our partner. They're going to rough it pretty quick, especially if they've led that suit. Like on the next trick, probably. One has 4, one has 1. But no, when it's maybe a 3 and a 2 card suit, as we'll see in a moment. So a scenario would be where we would also want to rough in the dummy, as we spoke about. Or better yet, doing cross roughs, where we're short in both hands, back and forth, when that's better than pulling trump. Okay, we would have where we do a finesse in the trump suit, actually. We don't have too many side suit entries to the dummy, but we better use them now because we need that to go to the, let's say, ace queen 10 versus 3 little, or maybe ace jack 10. We need to do repeated finesses. And is that an and or an or function? Is it dependent or interdependent? Well, it's actually independent, one of the other. So it's the or function, one or the other. So the odds add. That would be 50% finesse for the first one, 75%, 76 if the queen drops on the second one. Okay, then we would have the loser on the loser. This is where, let's say there's a weak 2 bid, 2 spades to our left, a 6 card suit, and we end up in ultimately 4 hearts. All right, they've got 6, the dummy comes down, there's 2, we have 3, that means it's a 6, 3, 2, 2 suit. So we're thinking, okay, they play the ace and the king. Now the queen comes down of the spade suit, and we think, well, we can rough it, but there's just little ones in our heart suit in the dummy. So we're going to get over roughed. So instead of worrying about that, just go ahead and pitch a loser on one of your side suits if you know you're going to have that anyway. A loser on a loser. Now how about the rule of 1? Yes, once we played, let's say it's 5-3 in the trump suit, the ace, the king, their queen does not drop, the queen is outstanding, then take it when they may. Rather than give 2 of our trump for 1, we might be able to use that last trump for another purpose, such as an entry or for another type of plan later on in the case where they have a rough and a slough, they have to give us something like that. So that would be a good time to use it unless we need to have an entry to the dummy and we feel that they'll sever that sole line of communications with the queen. All right, then the last is to maintain an entry to the dummy, such as when there's just not a lot of entries and we need to use one in the trump suit, but we can't pull all the trump because of a timing issue in playing some finesses or some side suit promotions. Okay, let's take a look at the first hand that we had before we had this, where we couldn't pull trump. You recall it was, we have something like a 5-3-3-2. In hearts we have ace king. Our partner in this case has 4 hearts. They're all small. Ace king jack in clubs and king 3 times in spades. So invitational. 1 heart, 3 hearts, 3.5 hearts almost, 4 hearts, and we're in a 4 heart contract. And the opening lead is a club 2. And what do we do first of all when we see the dummy? We count our losers in a trump contract, right? How many losers do you see here? Well, I see that in the spade suit we have one, little duplication of length of the suits, doggone it. In hearts we have one loser there, and in diamonds we could have 3 losers there. We might not have a loser in hearts. It could be they fall 2-2 40% of the time, but 50% of the time it is 3-1, yes. And we hope it's not that 4-0, that 10% of the time. So, okay, we're going to have our strategy. And I don't know why they led a 2. They're not leading from honor. Normally lead low from something and honor. The best they would have would be a 10 in this suit. That's another story. But at any rate, we're going to go ahead and win the queen. And we're hoping they're not going to rough it, that it's not going to be a 6-2 against us, right? We have 5, they have 8. Could be they have 4-4. Could be they have 5-3. Could be they have 6-2 and they're playing the third one. We would get rough, but that's not a likely scenario. So we're going to go ahead and win the queen, go back to the king. Then on the ace, we're going to go ahead and pitch one of our diamonds. Doesn't do any good to pitch spades. We're always going to have a spade loser. So that's how we'll go ahead and make the contract. Fine, we saw that one before. The next scenario is where we're going to rough a loser. So let's try taking a look at this. Well, in this situation, we have doubletons in both clubs. There's not going to be any promotion on a side suit there, is there? So we're going to end up in 4 hearts again. Now, mind you, we have 4, 8, 9, 10, 11, and with a singleton and plenty of hearts, 12, 13, 14, but that assumes that partner is going to play the ace, the king, and the third one if they're 3-1 against us. That kind of negates the opportunity for roughing on this spade suit. So we start off by counting our losers. Our losers this time, we find that we have 3 in spades potentially, 1 in diamonds, and 1 potentially maybe in hearts if they're 3-1 against us. No losers in clubs. So they're leading the club. Okay, we're not going to be able to do any promotion of a club suit. We don't have that third one this time. But we can certainly do some roughing, can't we? Indeed, we're going to go ahead and win the king, I suppose, and then we're going to go ahead and start doing some roughs in the club suit. So we can do a small spade up to them. They're probably going to come right back in a trump, right? As we're defenders, we want to be contrarians. Don't make it too easy for the declarer. So they play a heart, we win it, and then we go ahead and we start roughing some of these spades. Okay, so that's the way we'll make it that one. Now, let's take a look at the next one. This is going to be the cross rough strategies where 2 suits are both short. You can see certainly we have losers in diamonds if we're in a heart contract, and we have some opportunity to rough in the club suit. We're counting our losers first, right? So how many losers do you see here? We have 1 in spades, 3 in diamonds from this hand's perspective. Yes, we're expecting to rough them, but so far that's what it is. If we were to pull trump, we would have some losers there. And we have 1 loser potentially in hearts if they're 3-1 against us. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and win the king, and then we're going to return a diamond to the ace, and we're going to start the rinse, wash, lather, and repeat, aren't we? And start the roughs back and forth between the clubs and the diamonds. Now, yes, the club suit, how many times will it play before it gets roughed? How many do we have? 5 and 2 is 7. That gives them 6. They could be 3-3. 1 in 3 times, that 36% chance. They could be 4-2. 4-2 is going to be more like about half of the time, isn't it? 2 over 4, 49%. Okay, so at any rate, it's still probably a better play than anything else that we have up here. We're always going to have a loser in the spade suit. And we're not so sure about the heart suit, so it's still our best strategy. Good, okay. Next we're going to try the repeated trump finesse. Okay, here's where we have the ace, queen, 10. It looks like there's an opportunity for repeated finesses. Our partner does not have an honor in our heart suit, and we end up in game. The opening lead in a 4-heart contract is going to be the club 10. Okay, finally, they're leading the top of nothing there, aren't they? Could be a shorter suit, we don't know this time. So, do you want to go ahead and play it around to the jack. Maybe you can win with the jack. I hope not. When you have a 7-card side suit, they're just begging for them to rough it, isn't it? Especially when they're playing like a high from high-low, or gosh, could be a singleton. So no, do not let it come around. They're not leading away from Queen 10, I don't think. Queen 10-9 or something like that, a split sequence. So we're going to go ahead and win it. But before we do that, we're going to count our losers. Yes. So our losers here in spades, 1. In hearts, potentially 2. We want to do some repeated finesses, yes. In diamonds, we have 1 loser there. Looks like we might be able to rough. And in clubs, well, looks like we could have a loser there also, couldn't we? So we've got quite a few losers we have to deal with. So we're going to go ahead first of all and win that king of clubs, not let it come around to the jack. We're going to finesse it to the 10, or I suppose you could finesse to the queen, depending upon if you thought one person had the king or not, based upon the bidding. If they made a bid, if they opened the bidding, if they made a takeout double. At any rate, we're going to go ahead and play it for one or the other. Then we'll come back and we're going to do it again. We're going to get back to the dummy in what? Another club, probably not a spade. And then we're going to go ahead and try a second time. See if we can do it that way. And 76% of the time, the odds say yes, it should work. Also, by playing the finesse more than one time, since we have a 7-card side suit, it's not so spooky that it's going to get roughed right away, right? Okay, another one would be to throw a loser on a loser. And we talked about the scenario where we worried about them over roughing us. So we have, in this case, a lot of hearts, 6, ace 6 times, and unfortunately our dummy has king, queen, third, and we're in a 4-heart contract. They lead the ace of clubs. Well, we can rough it right away, but maybe we shouldn't, right? Let's take a look at this. How many losers do we have in the pointed suits? In spades, well, we've got 1 loser for sure, could lose another there. How about the diamonds? 1 loser for sure, could be another there, could be 4 losers right there, couldn't it? So when they take the ace of clubs, why rough it at all? You know you're going to have some losers, at least one of each of these pointed suits. So we have counted our losers. We said yes, we have 2 in each of the suits, 1 too many. So we're going to go ahead and just pitch 1 in the pointed suits. Take your pick. Now they want to play their king. They led an ace, ostensibly from ace king. It's not good tactics to lead an unprotected ace. So if they wanted to play the king, fine, then we could go ahead and rough then, couldn't we? And we've also promoted that suit. So it's a much better play to play a loser on a loser in a scenario like this, isn't it? Now, incidentally, have you ever heard of skullduggeries and shenanigans? Don't want to do those in bridge. Let's say that you were going to be real coy with the opponents, and so they play the ace of clubs, and you play a black spade, and when you put it down, you fake it, you feign it like, oh, I want to change my my suit. So in other words, you want them to continue to play the club suit. And they say, no, you can't change it. And you were doing this as a tactic all along to get them to play a second club rather than switch to another suit. When really, except for switching to trump, you'd be happy if they switched to a pointed suit. But don't do that. It's bad bridge, and I'll tell you, your opponents will never want to play with you as partners if you do those kind of shenanigans and skullduggeries. So at any rate, just go ahead and play straight ball down the center of the fairway, and go ahead and pitch on 1 smoothly in tempo. Don't make a big deal about it. If you want to go ahead and play a black card rather than a red card to make it not so obvious, you can't do it without hardly showing it to them. But go ahead and play a black card. Don't make any overtures over it. And for sure, if they don't catch it, then fine. Go ahead and play that black card rather than the red card. Okay? All right, so after we promoted that suit, then we can go ahead and certainly do our finesses, and we've gotten rid of a couple losers on losers. So I guess that takes care of it in terms of giving some instances of when we will not pull trump and we will use a delayed gratification, because when we took a look at our losers, when the dummy hit the table, we saw there was some better work to do than just pulling trump. Most likely, as you recall, the one you're going to see most of is going to be where we rough and dummy. And I think you probably got that one already, so we're not going to dwell on that one. And in part 2B, we're going to see some different game scenarios. So stay tuned and we'll give it our best shot. See you at the table.